You are now listening to a member of the Disney Podcast family. Head over to Disney Podcast Family on Instagram to see all the latest posts for this show and links to other great Disney podcasts.
Here we go, pivot!
Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the DIZPod. I am your co-host, Lawrence. Corey will be joining us in just a minute. So thank you all for being here. Not sure what happened to my intro song, but that's okay. We'll start out without the song. So good evening, everybody. I can tell you it's a kind of a weird day here for me. Finley it's actually her birthday today. She's turning 6. And so it's a good day around here for that reason. It was nice and bright and sunny. And Finley has no school tomorrow. Why? Because we're getting winter weather here in North Carolina. Yeah. So we are expecting snow, sleet, ice. It's going to be fun a couple days. So I'm going to guess that she's not going to have school the rest of the week. Just saying. So she was off yesterday for President's Day, went to school today for her birthday, and now she'll probably have the next 3 days off. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. We've got a great show lined up for you tonight. I was telling our guest that one of the great things about doing this show is that I get to meet all sorts of different people in Disney lore, if you will, that I would not get to meet. I probably wouldn't even know their names, honestly, if I wasn't doing this and in the Disney community like I am. And so I'm very excited for our guest tonight. We've had authors, we've had actors, all sorts of folks. Well, tonight we have a Disney artist that you'll see, I'll show you some of the work that he's done. Just absolutely amazing. Worked with a company for 30 years as a Disney artist, creating some things you wouldn't even, you probably don't even think, well, who created that? Oh, it's probably a group of, interns or something. No. This is, you're going to see the brains behind all these fantastic works and really start to understand, who brings the magic. We talk about the cast members in the parks, but, and of course there's executives and people that make the big decisions, but it's the folks like Brian that really help bring the Disney magic to you. So I'm not going to waste any more time. I'm going to bring Brian in. I'll have to set him as... Let me bring him in this way. There we go. Brian Blackmore,
Lawrence.
welcome. Thank you so much for being here. So I mentioned that you worked for the company for 30 years, but give us a little idea. How did you get to, come to work for Disney? What was it like before working for Disney, and what got you down there to Florida?
Well, I don't know if this podcast is long enough for me to tell you the full story, so I'll try and give it to you in a nutshell. It was at age 5 that I wanted to be a Disney artist, and then growing up in Massachusetts, especially Cape Cod, that's the furthest point, at least at that time, from Disneyland out in California, because there were no other theme parks at that time, Disney theme parks, just the one in California. And so I didn't know how I would get on with Disney, but it was really, as someone described it, a comedy of errors. I ended up joining the military in 1978, and I spent 4 years in the Air Force as a firefighter, and I did my artwork on the side because my dad often said to me, he says, let them know you're an artist. Wherever you are, let them know you're an artist. So I used that to my advantage, and while I was in the fire department, I was doing Fire Prevention Week posters and things like that, so I never really stopped drawing or even giving up on my dream of eventually working at Disney. And then after the military, I went to Texas because the economy was really kind of bad in 1982 at that time. And I ended up working at this warehouse, a distribution center. And through that warehouse, I actually got the opportunity to work as a freelancer for Disney. And the strange thing about it was I was doing artwork again for the warehouse too when I wasn't driving a forklift. And the human resources person approached me and she said, "Why don't you send some of your work to Chicago," which was the main headquarters for all these distribution warehouses for
Mm.
medical supplies throughout the United States. And what had happened is they ended up telling me, contacting her, and they said, "Well, we can't use Brian for this corporate magazine because he's an artist and we don't use art in our corporate magazines. But we're going to start doing this thing called After Dark, and we're going to ask Brian if he wants to be our first interview," which was pretty cool. So they called me on the phone, and then I talked to them about my art and how I wanted to work for Disney. I didn't mention it very much, but I just mentioned that I wanted to work at Disney. So when the magazine came out, I guess it was about a month later, I came into work on second shift, and in my inbox was a letter from Chicago. It had been forwarded from Chicago, and in it was a handwritten letter from a Disney artist at Consumer Products in California saying that there was going to be an opening in Florida, and if I was interested in applying for it, I could do that. Well, I eventually called the guy, and I was super excited. And uh, I asked him, I said, "Well, how did you get this magazine article? Because it's only for people within the company." And he said, "Well, this is what happened, is that the magazine went to someone in Glendale who knew a police officer that knew somebody at Disney. So they handed the article to the police officer. The police officer gave it to his friend at Disney. They read the article and then wrote off a letter to me, and then the rest is history." I started as a freelancer in 90 from Texas, working for 4 years, and then in 94 came the invite. And so my wife and my two daughters and our menagerie of pets, two parakeets, a rabbit, and a dog, all went to Florida and just retired last year.
Wow. Wow.
There's a
What
lot
a,
more to the story. I can't really go into it, but that's it in a nutshell.
yeah, yeah. So as a freelancer, what type of projects are you working on?
As a freelancer at that time, we didn't have computers, so that's really dating me now. So what they had me do is I wasn't drawing the characters, I was inking them. Now, for those artists out there, they probably know what I mean, but for most of your guests who don't know what that means, is Disney would send me drawings or tight pencils of the art. Uh, and by the way, this wasn't animation, this was for the merchandise division. That's where I got my job. That's where I spent 30 years in the Disney merchandise division, particularly for the theme parks.
Hmm.
So they would send me a pencil of Mickey that's going to go on a T-shirt, and then I would take a piece of vellum and lay it on top of the drawing, and then I would take out my brush and an ink bottle, and I would ink over all of it to make it nice and clean, and then I would send it to them in Federal Express, and then they would scan it and do whatever they needed to do, and then render it, and then it ended up on T-shirts.
Wow.
It's
So
again, I'm giving you a lot of the Reader's Digest versions, but
yeah.
yeah,
So okay, so you're inking, that's the term that you use there.
yes.
So
Hmm.
you did that, and then in 94 you start working for them full time.
Yes, I recall the relationship that I had with the manager at that time at Disney. His name was Mark Seppelin. He since is retired now, but he was the one that actually gave me the chance, and he started sending me drawings from the other artists. Ralph Kent was one of them that I'd mentioned to you about. Ralph, who's a Disney legend, and I was doing their ink work, and it was very funny because every day it got to a point where he would call me every day, and I'd be at the warehouse and I'd say Blackmore line one, and I'd get off my forklift and go over and answer the phone, and he would tell me in 5 minutes, "Okay, I'm sending you this is what I need, thick line, thin line, whatever the application was of the illustration for whatever product it was going on," which could have been anything from candy boxes to T-shirts to lunch boxes.
Mm.
So then one day I'm working. It says Blackmore, line two, or whatever. I go over there and pick up the phone, and it's Mark, and he says, "Are you ready?" And I knew exactly what he meant when he said that, but I pretended I was dumb, which isn't hard actually. So he said, I've got a job opening for you. He says, there's four people that I'm going to be hiring. He says, I need you to come to Florida and we'll do an interview, but if you want it, the job is yours. And I said, how soon do I have? And he says, you got 2 weeks. So 2 weeks going from a warehouse job where I'm wearing steel-toed shoes and everything else into an office environment where I'm wearing a suit and tie, doing my drawings. It was quite the cultural shock.
And so the question's already come up. So R. Roderick wants to know, what was the first Disney character that you drew?
For an actual job
Mm-hmm.
for the company. As a freelancer, I think I had to do a nightlight. They wanted me to do a Mickey Mouse nightlight. It was Baby Mickey nightlight. And I remember having to do the sketches, and they sent me model sheets. It's always about model sheets. You, as a character artist, you have to be very cognizant of how the characters are being drawn, and so it's a requirement to study the model sheets.
Mm-hmm.
You're studying the history that was laid out before you, that you're trying to carry on. It's supposed to be seamless. A drawing of Mickey Mouse from the 1940s should be pretty close to the way he's drawn now. So the model sheets are an important thing. So
Mm-hmm.
I remember that. I remember laboring over it. It was so hard because Mickey, to me, and to most of my colleagues, I would say, Mickey's the hardest character to draw because most people identify with Mickey. My favorite character is Donald Duck.
Oh, okay. All right. I have a coworker that would love that because she's a huge Donald Duck fan. He is her favorite. So if you're just joining us, I'm Lawrence. I am speaking with Brian Blackmore, who was a Disney artist for 30 years. And I believe our co-host is in the green room, so I'm going to bring him in.
Hello, everyone. Brian, very nice to meet you. Thank you so much for coming on. We appreciate you for your time and all of your efforts.
Thank you, Corey. I heard you're a fellow Massachusetts, and that's true.
Oh, yes, sir. New Bedford, Massachusetts, born and raised. How about you?
My mom was born in New Bedford.
How about that? It's a small world after all, isn't it?
Small world. She was she and her family. I think I want to say Acushnet Avenue. Anyway, Portuguese.
Oh, well, Acushnet
Wow.
Avenue. Let's talk about Acushnet Avenue. Now, Acushnet Avenue is where I met my wife. It is
Oh
a
my
place.
gosh.
Yeah, it's a road or a street that goes through. I think it's like 3 miles long or something, and it's a place when kids. I don't even know if this still happens, but back when I was younger, kids would get their license and they would cruise the avenue. And I just saw my wife go by one too many times with that blonde hair and big blue eyes, and I told my buddy, "You got to pull her over because I have to meet her." And the rest is history. 15 years old.
Wow.
Yeah,
Small world, literally.
crazy. So
Well,
were
it's nice to
you
meet you, Corey.
born there too? You too. So did you live in New Bedford at all?
No, I was born in Taunton, and then my
Okay.
folks moved to the Cape in '61, and we
Oh,
lived in Harwich on Cape Cod.
all right.
And then
Okay.
it was at 18 I decided I want out of there. Well, actually 14 it was too cold for me. I've got to get to a warm climate.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. So where did you escape to from there?
I joined the military, as I was mentioning to Lawrence, that I joined the military, ended up being in Germany for 2 years, and then South Dakota, and then down to Texas. It took me 4 years to get to a warmer climate.
Oh, there you go. Well, yeah, it took us a little bit longer than that. We went from Massachusetts to Maine for 9 years, and then finally we said time for warmer weather, and we've been in Florida
Yes.
for a little over 8, and
Well, welcome.
loving it. Well, thank you.
And
Uh,
he's wearing a black on black hat, but I did pick up that it's a Red Sox hat.
it
Yes, it
took me a
is.
second and a half to pick up on that.
So
Love that.
I'm outnumbered tonight, but
Yeah.
that's okay.
Yes, especially because of certain signings recently. We're in contention now, so
Yeah,
people are
whatever,
excited.
whatever. So So yeah, so Brian was just telling us about how he started. Started as a freelancer, and then in '94 started working for them full time. Um, and I thought I saw another question come up here. Um, Laura asked, "Have you met any of the Disney characters in person?" Well, I would assume you have. You're in the parks, right?
Oh yeah, are
Well,
you
I
talking
wonder.
about the walk around characters, or the people that voice the characters, or?
That's what I think. The people that voice the
That voice them?
characters.
Oh,
Hmm.
maybe, yeah.
Yeah, yes, I have. Uh, Allwine, who was the voice for Mickey for many years.
Mm-hmm.
Bill Farmer, who was the voice for Goofy. Uh, Allwine's wife, I'm sorry, I can't remember her name. She was Minnie. So actually, Mickey and Minnie
Yes.
were married. At least
Yes.
the voices were. And I'm trying to think. Well, I've met the voice for Catherine Beaumont. So I've had the opportunity to meet a lot of the people that voiced the characters for Cinderella and Alice in Wonderland and Peter Pan. I met the voice actor for Pinocchio. I'm trying to remember his name. Once you leave the company, names start floating
Mm,
away from you.
yeah.
I believe his last name was Jones, but it
Now,
was wonderful meeting with him.
were you meeting them just because you work for the same company, or did you have to collaborate for some reason?
Now, what was happening at one point in the early part of the 90s on into the early part of the 2000s, we had a thing called Disneyana, and the artists, at least for the merchandise division, would make appearances at
Mm,
these conventions, and it would alternate between coasts. The Disneyana convention was kind of like the precursor to D23.
hmm.
Because D23, it's a much grander scale. You're talking over 100,000 people. Whereas with the Disneyana convention, we were talking between 600 to 800 people. So it was a much more intimate thing. And of course, being in California, it made it easy to find a lot of these people that worked for the company to come to the conventions and speak with the guests. And also, we would get to mingle with them because there would be moments that we would have a special luncheon off outside away from the guests, and we would get to sit with them and talk. Pat, she was the voice for Ursula. Oh my gosh, I can't believe this. My wife's going to be saying, "Why didn't you remember her name?" Oh my gosh. Yeah, uh, we met her once too, and of course she grew up or she was living in Harwich at the time too. Um, but Pat Carroll, Pat Carroll.
Okay.
But no, it was a wonderful opportunity to meet. Even I met Diane Disney, Diane Disney Miller, which was an awesome thing to meet Walt's daughter.
Yeah.
And she was just very, very nice. She could have been aloof if she wanted to be, being the daughter of Walt Disney, but she wasn't. She was very down to earth.
Wow. It's amazing. You are just working a warehouse. Working in a
Yes,
warehouse, and this leads to that, and all of a sudden you get to rub elbows with the Disney family. Wow.
it's a really strange thing. Yes, when I tell people the story, they don't believe it. But you'd be surprised how many of my colleagues had very similar stories to this, how they came to the company. And I don't know if you believe in destiny. Some people do, and I think there's a certain degree of truth to that. If it's meant to be, it's going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. And so how big of a Disney fan were you before you started working for them?
Oh, I'm still a pretty big Disney fan. I never was uh, what was a people call or coin as a company man. I'm not a company man. I've always been a Walt Disney man
Mm,
because I always believed in the ideals and the dreams and the vision that he had. I would, from grade school up into college, my papers or my thesis would always be about Walt Disney and talk about the things that he and those wonderful people that he had working for him um, developing these great things, these theme parks, and and Walt Disney was never known to talk about, well, how much money can I make off of this if I do it? He was always on the brink of bankruptcy. He was borrowing money from his homes or his insurance policies to make things come true, to build these dreams of his.
Hmm.
And I have a great deal of respect for that. He was never thinking about the money.
Yeah, I think the series that I guess was History just did, How Disney Built America, showed a lot of that,
Mm,
and you start to really realize that it was the two of them really that, you know, I if it was just Walt, I don't know that we would be anywhere where we are today. And if it was just Roy, I don't think we'd be anywhere where we are today. It took the two of them to really um, balance each other out,
yes.
because Walt was the visionary. He knew what he wanted to get done. Um,
Mm,
he was not worried about the checkbooks. Yeah.
mm. But I will tell you though, a lot of the times, and I hear this a lot. I used to give historical talks. Myself and this other artist in our department, we would give talks about Walt Disney to Imagineering or to outside companies and things. And you always hear about, well, Walt wasn't really a good artist, or Walt wasn't um, a very good businessman. On the contrary, he was a very good artist. When you really look at what he had done prior to doing the animated films and things, and getting the people that he needed to make that vision, he knew his limitations, but he was still a very good artist at what he was doing from a technical standpoint. And from a business standpoint, when it was told that Walt was spending too much money, and they had, I think it was Bank of America was the financiers at that time for the company. They decided that they wanted to have a board of directors. Well, Walt didn't really want to give away his company, but because of the fact that they'd become a traded company, they had to have a board of directors. So when Walt wanted to do Disneyland, he developed WED, which is Walter Elias D. Uh, that was the word at that time to use for Imagineering.
Hmm.
And he went ahead and developed the monorail, and he leased the monorail to the company. So he was making money that way for himself to finance building more things for Disneyland.
Mm, really,
I
really
think that's pretty
smart.
shrewd.
Yeah.
That's pretty shrewd. Now
Wow.
his brother Roy may have had something to do with that too, of course.
Sure.
Mm.
Wow. So would you say you're a Disney historian too?
Yes, I love Disney. I love reading the books. My wife will tell you, I I have quite a few books behind me on the shelf. But
Nice.
yeah, I do love the history of Walt Disney.
So um now you have a very storied career with Disney, 30 years. Um I I'm assuming the answer is going to be that I know what the answer is going to be, but do you have any favorite projects that you've worked on?
There's been many of them, many, and too many to really talk about. But there's one in particular that sticks out, and that was helping develop the Macy's Captain Mickey or Sailor Mickey balloon for the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. That was that balloon flew from I think 2009 to 2003 at the Macy's Parade.
Wow.
I was fortunate enough to be able to work on the project. One of the artists that was working on it, unfortunately, had to leave the company, and so I took over, and it was just a lot of fun. I got to fly up to New York. They flew me up to New York for the day to look at how the balloon was being developed, and so from that moment on, I was from the beginning stages of how the balloon was being created, which starts off as a clay sculpture, until the full balloon inflated in a location out in the Midwest.
So, excuse me. So for something like that, where do you come in? How much of the design is yours?
Well, in this case, the design wasn't mine. I was merely taking over what was
Okay.
already established. So once the design was created, then it was my job to go up to New York and to look at the clay sculpture. All the balloons start off as clay sculptures, just not very big.
Hmm.
And then they will grid it off and scan it, and then the manufacturer of the balloons will then create these huge balloons from these clay sculptures. So it was my job to go up, take a look at the clay sculpture, make any adjustments that might need to be made. If the nose wasn't correct, or if the eyes were not the correct size, all of these little things that the character artists had to be cognizant when they're drawing Mickey Mouse.
Hmm.
I had to make sure of that because this person that was sculpting this had never done a Mickey Mouse before. So it was my responsibility to make sure that it was correct. And then once that was done, then I had to pick the colors for the balloon because they actually hand paint all the balloons. Those, it's not just they cut red fabric or whatever it is, red rubber
Yeah.
or plastic. They hand paint all the balloons. So I had to tell them what colors they needed to be. And then they had me go up to the location where they inflate the balloon and I could see it in its entirety. And then if there was any adjustments that needed to be made, well, I had to make them there because I was supposed to be the final eye along with another group of people from other, like from Pillsbury Corporation was there because they had the Pillsbury
The
Doughboy
Builder.
balloon. Yep, and I think we were the only two corporations that were there at that time. But and then I was looking at the eyes of Mickey, and I noticed that the eyelashes I have not I have eyelashes, or Mickey does rather. And so I noticed that they didn't have the eyelashes on there. So I said, well, we need to add them. And so the gentleman that was responsible for painting the balloon was standing right there, and he said to me, well, can you show me on the balloon? And so they had everybody lower the balloon down, and I had to stand up on a 16-foot ladder and then draw above the eye where the eyelashes had to go. It was a
Wow.
lot of fun. It was a lot of fun.
Wow. So you're a Disney historian. Obviously, you work for Disney. You were a Disney fan even before you worked for them. What what inspires you the most about Disney?
Well, I think it all started back when The Wonderful World of Color was on, and it was in 1964. I was 5 years old at that time, and I always loved the cartoons. And I think most of your character artists that are with the company started out, that's what they admired. And then, of course, I developed this insatiable hunger for drawing Donald Duck. Donald was, and still is, my favorite character. And you can see you can see it, that statue back right over there.
Mm-hmm.
You see that? Yeah, that's
Yeah,
a
he looks
statue that I
great.
designed. I designed that. That's one of the merchandise items that I did for the company.
Oh wow.
So it was a thing of love. I want to show angry Donald. So and then of course the theme parks, Disneyland at that time, you'd see on the Wonderful World of Color, they'd say next week on the Wonderful World of Color, Disneyland, and you'd sit there and I remember all week I was waiting for that Wonderful World of Color to come on so I could watch Disneyland, and I think that just kind of fed that hunger for
Mm,
wanting to work for Disney.
wow. So you still live in Florida now. Do you get to the parks often?
Just last weekend, I went to with my wife and my grandson and my daughter and son-in-law. We went to Animal Kingdom. It was a beautiful day. If you've ever gone on a safari ride, I've never seen that many animals out ever in all the years that I've gone to the parks. And then my wife and I went to my 30th anniversary gathering. They do this at Disney. It's called Celebrate Us, and they have people celebrating their 5, 10, 15, 20 in increments of 5 years, all the way up. And you get together at the Magic Kingdom. It's closed to the public, and it's a celebration. So that was about 3 weeks ago. But
Yeah.
other than that, I usually stay away from the parks when it's tourist season. It's just a lot of people. It's hard to get around.
I'm sure Corey agrees with that.
Tourist season is every day now. 365 days a year. There's no break anymore.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
Um So let's do this. I'm going to pull up some of your artwork. You can kind of walk us through some of it.
Yeah, we want to see
Okay.
some of this.
All right, this is the Disney Dream. I didn't even know this, but apparently, and it wasn't until a colleague told me, came into work one day, he says, Brian, did you know your Mickey's on the front of the Disney Dream? And I said, no. And he says, yes. And he pulled up a picture. What had happened is Imagineering had come to our department, and we had a library of things. And this is the treasure. I worked on this with Ron Cohey, who's an Imagineer right now, and he was a Disney animator. And he did the original rough pencil sketch, and then I came in and I was tasked to clean it up and ink it up, digitally ink it, and that's on the front of the treasure. But the other one was I was doing that for a project, not for the bow, but apparently Imagineering liked it, and they said, we're going to use this Mickey for the Dream.
That's amazing.
My
Wow.
wife and I, believe it or not, went to Germany to Meyer Werft, where they built the ship, and we were able to go and see the ship being built, which in itself was an amazing thing.
Not many people get to do that. So that is
No, no.
wow.
Yeah.
And then
It's
to
an
see
incredible
your work on the front of it,
Yes,
just incredible.
but again, there's so many people that do this that are all involved in the scrolling. I didn't do the scrolling; that was someone else entirely. And then we have artists that did the character work on the inside of the ship, and for the for the collateral work, which is the brochures and the menus and everything that you see in the ship.
Hmm.
Those are all done by craftsmen, artists within the company. It's
Wow.
truly a team effort.
No kidding.
But I've got to say, I'm very happy with the fact my Mickey's on the front of the bow. Thing is, you can't really see it because when you're in port, the ship is way at the end. You can't walk that far out to see the bow, but it's
Yeah,
there.
it's there. That's right. So
This
what
was
about this
done.
one?
This
This
is
was
interesting.
done. Corey, I knew that you'd like this one. This was done for Tokyo Disneyland. I had to go over and work over there on two different occasions for 2 weeks apiece to work with their art staff and to talk Disney history to the artists over there, which their parks are bar none the best parks, Disney parks in the world, bar none. And they have at Disney Seas, Tokyo Disney Seas, which again is amazing. It had this one section. It was the Cape Cod section, and that's where they sell Duffy the Bear. And so they asked me to participate in this program for artists. They said, well, since you're coming over here, would you do this? And then when they said Cape Cod, I said, yeah, definitely, I'm from Cape Cod. So I drew that up, and I have the characters, of course, with their Mickey Mouse ice cream heads, which, by the way, is my favorite treat at any of the parks, is the Mickey Mouse ice cream bar.
Hmm.
Oh,
And it's
yes.
always
Much
important
better
to
than the
the
ice cream
story.
sandwich. Yeah.
Very cool.
Did they get the Cape Cod from our Cape Cod though? Or you know,
Yes, yes.
they
They
did.
wanted Duffy the Bear was he. The story is that he came from Cape Cod, and if you go there, Corey, you'll see they have boats that'll say Dennis on it, Yarmouth. It's incredible. It's it's not exactly like
No
Cape Cod, but they
way.
did a very nice job replicating some of the feel of Cape Cod.
Well, now I
This
have
right
such
here
a
was
greater appreciation of Duffy now. I need a
Yeah.
Duffy, Lawrence.
well, yeah, Duffy started here. Duffy started here in Florida. One of our artists in our department came up with the story, and eventually Japan liked it so much that they said, "Hey, we want that character here in Tokyo." And believe it or not, Duffy is probably one of the most, I think he's the most popular cartoon character in Japan. Duffy. You'll get
Wow.
lines. I remember over there, the lines would be over an hour long to get his autograph when he'd come out.
Wow. Wow.
To,
More
to, to
popular than
go
Mickey,
into,
huh?
yes, in many respects, yeah. It's, it's,
Wow.
it's, the Japanese people just love Disney, absolutely love Disney. There was
Now
this
they
one
love
attraction over
Donald
there.
too, right? Donald seems
Yes,
like he's very
yes.
popular there.
In fact, I think Donald is more popular than Mickey. He does. They really go all out for him. Don't do it so much here in Florida or in California, but much to my disappointment, I feel there should be more Donald stuff. But you know that Walt had Mickey appear in The Sorcerer's Apprentice because Donald was overtaking Mickey in popularity, and he didn't want Donald to be ahead of Mickey. So that's why Mickey appeared in The Sorcerer's Apprentice.
Hmm.
A little bit of
How
history, a little
about
bit of
that?
Disney history for you.
Love that. So
So this
was Donald slated? Was there a different character slated to take that role?
actually there was. It's interesting you should bring that up. Uh, you figured that Fantasia came out in 1940. Well, there was a feature film, Walt's very first feature film that came out in 1938, and Corey, that was 1938.
Snow White.
Right. And the artists, some of Walt's people were saying, hey, we should have Dopey as a sorcerer's apprentice. And when you think about it in theory, it sounds like a really good idea. And if
It
you
does.
look at Mickey as a sorcerer, you look at him from his neck down. That's Dopey. Take a look at it next time you look at the Sorcerer's Apprentice.
Well,
I
when
can
you say that,
see
I'm thinking
that.
of like kind of the way Dopey wore his clothes, right? Very loose and
Hmm.
probably didn't see
Hmm.
his
And his
hands all
feet,
the
if you look at the
time.
feet, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Oh,
So Walt said, nope, we're going to have Mickey. Mickey's going to be in this film. And that was the very first time that Mickey's eyes appeared as they appear now, the contemporary eyes. Prior to that, he was coal-eyed. And then he became contemporary, which made it easier to express emotions and to also made it easier for the animators. Are you
wow.
learning some new things here? Have you heard this
Oh,
before?
thanks for coming, everyone. It was great having you. We just learned something amazing. I don't think we can top it. No, that was great. I love that. I'm thinking of a friend that we have that absolutely loves Mickey as the sorcerer, and I don't know if Aaron knows that Dopey was
Hmm.
targeted for that first. So it'd be
I,
interesting to bring
Mhm.
that up to him.
yeah, yeah, we'll have
Yeah,
to
I didn't
find
make
out.
that
I'll,
up. That's very true. I didn't make it up.
I will never forget that. Okay,
Yeah.
go ahead, Lawrence.
All right. So, going back to the cruise line, tell us about Captain Minnie Mouse here.
One of the good things for me, one of the very special things, was that from the very beginning, when the Disney Cruise Line was created, um, I was on the team that helped develop the merchandise for it. And I'd done that for many, many years. And this was towards the end of my career with Disney, probably about I guess it's been 3 years now since Minnie was in here. They wanted to make Captain Minnie. So my boss at the time said he picked four different people to come up with concepts of what Minnie should look like in her costume. And I was lucky enough that the Imagineers liked what I did and created this outfit for Minnie. And there was a lot of research that went into it. I obviously looked at lady captains on actual cruise ships, and her outfit is very similar to Mickey's. There are certain things that you have to be aware of. Obviously, I changed the colors from Mickey, um, and having her in white pants and a skirt. I like her in her skirt. That gives it a more feminine look to it. But if you look at some of the lady captains that they have on not just the Disney cruise ship, but on other cruises, they have the long white pants.
Hmm. And she's got her patented red shoes there.
Yes.
Love it. All right, tell us about Scuba
This
Mickey.
was, yeah, this was again done for the cruise line. And if you take a look at this image, you'll see that Mickey, along with the fish in the background, create the cruise line logo. And this was a
Oh yeah,
print
I
that
see
was
it.
going, see, and this was a print that was um, going to be given to the guests on the ship if they purchased something. I don't know the full story. So I created this in Photoshop. Of course, when I first started with the company, we didn't have computers, and we did everything by hand. But the beautiful thing about the computers is working in Photoshop and Illustrator. You're not breathing in the paint. You're not having to worry about cleaning the needles that are on the airbrush, and you can create some really cool things. And if you don't particularly like it, it doesn't take much to change it. The fish in the background, excuse me, the fish in the background. What I used for inspiration was the wart from Sword in the Stone. I did some
Ah.
changes up on it a little bit, but I liked how the fish looked in that. And if you look at Bed Knobs and Broomsticks too, the fish that are in that too, I wanted to get at that Disney style, that Disney feel.
That's pretty
It's
cool.
funny you say that because, over the decades of just looking at Disney animation, when I first saw those fish just now, I'm like, oh, those are Disney fish. Like, there's just something about no matter what Disney comes up with, it's Disney's version. It's not DreamWorks. It's not Fox. It's not any of those other ones. They can just never compete, and they just look like Disney fish. I thought you were going to say Little Mermaid, maybe.
No, 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 because this would have been done after Little Mermaid, but no, I was thinking about, because I'm old school, so I was thinking about Bedknobs and Broomsticks and definitely Sword and Stone.
Looks great.
Thank you. This was done for obviously the cruise line. I wanted to do something that was a lot of fun. I wanted to make it so that the characters are bigger than life. That was the whole thing. And that's why I had them in this cruise ship, and it's a generic cruise ship. If you look at the bow, it's just a simple corporate Mickey head,
Mm-hmm.
because this image was going to be on merchandise, T-shirts, jackets, whatever the merchants were going to put it on, and it had to be able to sit on all the other ships. So that's what I had to keep in mind here. And I did the concepts and the type pencils, and then I had an artist render it out who's just brilliant with doing rendering, and that was all done in the computer. It was beautiful work.
So
The
you mentioned
shading, the shading
T-shirts.
styles.
Did it go on to anything
Yes.
else?
It may have gone on cups. I'm not quite sure. A lot of the times we don't know what product is going to be used, what type of product. Uh, Obviously, you think it's going to go on a T-shirt and maybe a photo album, a Tervis or a cup that keeps drinks
A
cool and hot.
corksicle.
And yes, or a snow globe. These are all the things that we would have to work on. In the old days, as character artists in merchandise, we worked on pretty much everything, and we would take a product from beginning to end. So if we did a T-shirt design, we would work with a T-shirt developer in our company, and we'd do the concept, we would render it out, we would give it to the product developer, who would then send it out to a T-shirt printer. They would print it. The T-shirt would come back to me. In this case, I would check it out, make sure the colors are correct, and then approve it. And then the merchant would say, "Okay, fine, we get the thumbs up. Let's go ahead and start printing them." It was a much more involved job than what it is now. For me, I'm glad that I worked in the company during that era, because again, I got to work on some really cool things um, that unfortunately I think some of the newer artists can't, because the format has changed. They're not so much doing so much of the merchandise, that they're just doing well, I don't want to say just, because they're doing fantastic work. Style guides. They'll do, say for example, you're going to do something for Thunder Mountain. They would have Mickey and Donald sitting in the cars or whatever, and they would do all these illustrations, different images, and it goes into a file, and then that file goes to the merchant, and then they select what they want, and then they send it to the manufacturers, who then take that image and then they will apply it to the product, and then the merchants see the product. It doesn't come back to the art department.
Mm.
Oh,
So
so they're
this,
creating like they're creating different versions of the characters and the looks, and then they'll take them and
Yeah.
place them in like the train and however they want it.
Yes.
So it's like you're giving them a bunch of clip art, and they can kind of rearrange it the way they want.
Yes, exactly. That's it. Clip art. Yes. Corey, you nailed it. That's what it is.
I think that this kind of style of art is very different. There's a depth to it and everything, and the shadowing. Is that hard to do? I mean, it's certainly doesn't look 2D. It looks like it's coming out at you. It's a different kind. And I noticed, over the years, that sometimes Disney will choose this type of styling of art.
Hmm. Yeah, I think when you look at the Disney history, there's obviously errors, certain time, error, you mean ERA, where the characters or the merchandise is looking in a certain way, and it marks those eras. Um, I've had people say, "Yeah, this looks like the 1990s versus
Yes.
what was done in 1960s," and a lot of it has to do with the technology. And this right here, as I mentioned to you, was done in the computer by this really fantastic artist. Uh, who really knows how to do, excuse me, who really knows how to do shading and bringing the characters to life. And he accomplished it here in terms of the color and the shading.
Yeah, for sure.
And one piece of merchandise that this was then used on were figurines.
Yes, PVC figurines. Yeah, this was a huge program. And so when you look at the characters on the right-hand side, I had to do turnarounds. And turnarounds are like blueprints. So I would take, for example, Goofy. I would draw him left side, right side, front side, back side. So I had to have it in my mind exactly how these characters were to look. Then what happens is these blueprints, quote unquote, go to sculptors who then would sculpt it in clay or whatever medium that they needed to do to make those characters. Now, today with digital sculpting, we have artists in the department that are just fantastic, and they sculpt everything in the computer. It's so, and the beautiful thing about this is that when they send these digital files to manufacturers, well, they can print off a character this big or this big, and the integrity is still there.
Mm.
Computers have really elevated the abilities of the characters, or the merchandise, rather.
But you would rather have still worked in the era that you did, or would you want to work now?
I thought
Lawrence,
that
I'll
I
be
was
right
there
back.
at the right time.
Okay.
I was there at the right time, I think, for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, if I joined the company now as a young man, I would probably love this time. But it's the time that I was there. Just like as I mentioned with Ralph Kent, the time that he was there. He was there from 1963 all the way up to I think 1990, maybe early 2000s. He was there 40 something years.
Wow. Wow.
Things were
wow.
different. Things were much different. And I remember him talking about it, working with Walt Disney. He himself worked with Walt Disney,
Mm.
and how easy it was to, if you needed something or if you had to talk with somebody, it was easier. Now it's so large now. The company's just so large,
Yeah.
and they have so many layers that you've got to go through.
So let's answer a couple questions before we go back in and show some more of your work. So Pamela asked, Brian, have you ever designed characters for Disney jewelry?
Disney Joy?
Jewelry, sorry.
Oh, jewelry. I'm sorry. Um, Watches. Yes, I used to do watches, and I have done jewelry. But that was many years ago. Um, but to answer your question, yes, I have.
Wow. Um, Steve and Tony wants to know what's the concept of changing Mickey's appearance, or his appearance change over the years?
Well, we like to define as three eras, and it's probably now four. But there was coal-eyed Mickey and pie-eyed, which was used for publications, but it would go pie-eyed, coal-eyed, and then contemporary. And now, of course, it's not really three eras when you think about it. There's a lot more renditions of Mickey Mouse during that time.
Mm-hmm.
Probably, I mean, I won't even attempt to put a number on it, but there have been many ways that Mickey's been stylized over the years. One of the artists that was uh, Freddie Moore. He was a self-trained animator who came to work at Disney. Just incredible talent. He took Mickey from these quarters and nickels and dimes, how they drew him, into the more bouncy, squash and stretch kind of Mickey as you see today. And he was constantly trying to change Mickey as he became more comfortable drawing with him. So if people were to go into Disney history and study, they could see how much Mickey has changed. Now, where you see now where he's more stylized in the cartoons, you will see that Mickey, but when it comes to the actual Mickey Mouse, I think he still stands up when you look at the Sorcerer's Apprentice. To me, that's Mickey. But
Mhm.
everybody has their their particular Mickey that they like. The younger people like the new one today, but I still go back to that Mickey of the 1940s and 50s.
Gotcha.
Mm.
I
Uh,
was going to ask him. I don't know if you covered this. So that's a first ever. Tammy needed a moment. I had UPS come to pick a package, and she couldn't find it, so I had to run off and get that. But what was I going to say? Did you cover this? I wanted to ask you, what do you think of it? I love the new Mickey. I'm almost surprised of the Mickey shorts. I'm almost surprised that Disney approves of him and the behavior of the characters, because I think it's a little borderline
Mm.
sometimes in the Mickey shorts. I don't know if you've seen them, but I love that
Oh yeah,
Mickey.
absolutely. Yeah, he's definitely got his own charm, and as I was saying to Lawrence, that Mickey has been changed over the years many times, and whatever era that was he was in, typically those people are from that time period are attracted to that Mickey Mouse. Now you were saying Mickey is a little bit more mischievous.
mhm.
Well, if you look at the original Mickey Mouse cartoons back in the 1920s, Mickey smoked, Mickey drank. He was a
What?
really rascal. Oh yes, he was a rascal. And it wasn't until Walt said, "Look, let's put the brakes on Mickey's behavior. He's got to be more of the good guy." And that's where Donald came in, because then Donald could do the full scope of emotions. He could be nasty, he could be happy, he could be crazy, he could be sane. But he always wanted Mickey. Mickey was Walt Disney personified. That's how you can look at it. Walt wanted Mickey to be always the good guy. That's not saying Donald's a
Oh,
bad guy.
no, no.
All right. Let's see. Oh, tell us about these.
Again, this was done for the cruise line. These are, I'm trying to think of the name, the Russian, the Russian dolls where you get the little one goes in the next one, the next one. If you
Yes.
look at these, you can see the eagle goes into the bear goes into the whale goes into the mini uh, uh, cup, and then it ends up being inside, all inside of Mickey's. The outfits that they're wearing, and I'm referring to Mickey and Minnie, are the outfits that they wear on the cruise line up in Alaska. So when you go on the Alaskan cruise, these are the outfits that they wear. So one of the merchants approached me and said, "Look, I want to do something for the cruise ship to Alaska, and I want you to do something involving the I can't even remember what they call them, Russian dolls.
The nesting
But
is
anyway,
probably another word for
nesting.
it, but
There you
yeah.
go. That's it, nesting dolls. So that's why I did the eagle and the bear and the whale, because I felt that those uh, were best for this. In fact, I think there's one more inside of the eagle, and it's the Disney cruise ship. So it goes from
Oh,
Disney cruise ship to the eagle to the bear to the whale to Minnie to Mickey.
that's very cool.
And each one of those, by the way, was hand painted. I didn't hand paint them. The faces and were done of decals, but the rest was hand painted by people up in Alaska. At least
Wow.
that's what I was told.
Okay. So we covered those.
Hmm.
We covered your
And that
Cape
one too.
Cod. So Splash Mountain.
This was done for Splash Mountain. There was another artist in my department, Tim, and Tim was the manager for this particular program. And again, you can see it was for the 30th anniversary. So I had a lot of fun with this. I enjoyed the inking style. I wanted to make it look like a woodcut kind of thing. And when you work with artists or designers, it's obviously a teamwork effort. You get together, the character artist and the designer, and you discuss the direction and how you feel would be best for this. And a lot of the artists in the department, believe it or not, are big Disney fans. There are some that aren't. They love doing the work, but they're not really Disney. But then
Mm.
there are those that really are, and they want to put in, like myself, story into it that I know that the guest would like because I know that I like it. So that's one of the things that's encouraged by for the artist by the management. Say, hey, look, have fun with this. Put some hidden Mickeys in there. Come up with something that'll be fun. To me, storytelling is paramount to everything. That's the whole mantra of Disney is the storytelling.
Hmm. And then there was another splash shirt. Yeah.
Yeah, this was done. I did this one a long time ago, and I look at this and I go, "Oh, I wish I could redo that." I look at the character and I go, "That looks a little off." But yeah, this was a T-shirt I did, and you can still see it's tie dye. I didn't do the tie dye. That wasn't my intention. It was the merchant say, "Hey, let's do it as a tie dye."
Hmm.
But I think this was done probably close to 20 years ago for Splash Mountain. Again, I took the font and I made it look like the mountain.
Yeah.
And of course, everybody gets wet on that. When I went the other night with my wife I told you I went to the Magic Kingdom. I went on the Princess and the Frog attraction, and I got soaked more so than it was when it was Splash Mountain. I got soaked.
So the last time I was on, I could wring out my shirt. And then the time before that, I got more wet on Pirates than I did on Tiana's. I don't know.
Wow, that's wild.
Yeah.
No, I was actually I sat like I think in the middle of the log. I sat in the middle of it, and
Hmm.
there was one other couple behind me, and I figured, oh, I'm not going to get wet on Tiana's ride. There's no way I'm going to get wet. Comes down there, I should have sat in the front seat because it went right over the front seat, went right onto me.
Uh,
I figured there's somebody up there controlling things, saying, "Oh, this guy thinks he's not going to get wet. Well, let's go ahead
yeah.
and do it."
Yeah. um, so someone asked earlier, what do you do now that you're retired? What are you doing? Because you did appear at the art festival, am I correct? Not this year, but previous year.
Last year, yeah, I was very fortunate to be a part of that for 25 years. I still have paintings in the gallery, so I still participate in that. That's a separate thing from being a cast member with the company.
Hmm.
All the artists have a contract that want to paint for the galleries. So yeah, it was for 25 years I did that, and it was just time. They wanted to try newer people, and I'm all for that. I think it's that circle of life, right? It's time for me to move on and somebody else that's young come in with fresh ideas.
So, can um, are you currently selling any artwork?
In the galleries, yes, yes.
Okay.
I can't quite remember what they are, but I think I have 3 or 4 paintings in there right now.
Okay.
Two of them are rescuers, I think. Two are rescuers, rescuers down under. And there was one I did based on a trip that I did to Germany where I had the sorcerer Yensid, and Mickey going up the stairs. And Mickey's kind of looking at Yensid saying, "Hey, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do this." Um, I think that's the other painting that I had. That was based on a pose that my wife had done. We were in this castle in Germany. She was going up the stairs, and I thought, "Oh, that's an
Hmm.
interesting picture." And so I took a picture of it, and I turned her into Mickey Mouse, and I put Yensid next to her.
And so, where can people
Nice.
find those
I,
works?
You can go to the Disney galleries. I believe they're at downtown Disney, Disney Springs.
Oh,
Now you know I'm an old guy. I'm calling it downtown Disney, Disney Springs.
okay. Corey, next time you're there at Springs, you're gonna have to look for them.
yeah, we're gonna have to look for that. And
But
when
I
he
think I
said
know
the
what you're saying.
rescuers, I
Hmm.
saw our rescuers at one the recently when I was there. So I wonder if that was yours. I'll have to look and see how it was signed. See if that was your rescuers, because I was like,
It
oh,
could
the
very well
rescuers,
be.
because
I
I don't I don't think we see enough rescuers stuff. So I loved that as a child. And so when I see something pop up
hmm
randomly like a mug or whatever, I'm like, oh, rescuers.
hmm Yeah, what I did was you have to really look at my signature because I don't like to have it overpower the artwork. I keep it hidden, kind of like down near the bottom. I'll either have it on the
Okay.
left or the right side. So you have to look for it.
Okay. That'll help.
But I think what you were saying, Lawrence, is that you're trying to allude to if I was doing anything else outside of Disney for art.
Hmm.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, I am doing work. I'm working on a children's book right now. Uh, I'm just getting ready to finish it up. But I'm also doing other artwork. I'm doing other paintings, and I'll show you this one thing. This right here, you know what a pond frond is? You've seen what pond fronds are, right? On on trees here.
Oh, yes.
See that?
Yeah.
So what I did was I painted. Yeah, I put a
Wow.
grizzly bear on the front of it.
Look
Wow.
at
So
that.
this is what I'm kind of doing now. I love
That's really
grizzly
cool.
bears. So I've
You
started painting
he
on those,
wow. That's
and
impressive.
this is another painting here that I recently did not too long ago. I want to do something like the Pony Express, but a lot of the
Wow.
times I do
Look.
these paintings for myself,
Mm-hmm.
just for fun. Um, and I'm a huge Jaws fan, so I did my version of what I thought would be good for Jaws. How many of you
Look
have
at
ever
that.
seen Jaws and you know about the Indianapolis scene? To me, that's the epitome of the Jaws story.
Mm.
That was, to me, the most powerful point of that movie was when he was talking about the Indianapolis. So I said, you know what, I want to do that scene. And so I took the shark from the poster, I painted it on here, and then. So I'm keeping
Wow.
busy, if that's what you're asking. Yes,
Yeah.
I'm keeping busy. I need to. It just I can't stop.
And so a couple people asked about the art festival at Epcot. Did you enjoy participating in it? Do you enjoy going to it now as a spectator?
Um, I always enjoyed the participation. I met some wonderful people through the years, and it was always a very exciting thing. When it first started out, it was at Disney, downtown Disney, which is now Disney Springs, and then it migrated over to Disney West Side, and then it started to go over to Epcot. So it has definitely grown over the years. We didn't have as many artists participating,
Mm.
but it's really good that we do. It's clearly attracting more artists participation. Um, as far as going to it, I haven't gone this year. It's just a lot of people.
Yeah.
It's funny, yeah. I like the off season. My wife and I love the off season because you can go to the parks. And that's one of the benefits of being retired cast members that we get passes that we can go to the parks
Mm-hmm.
pretty much whenever we want when we make our reservations. But my wife and I usually like to go to Epcot and we'll sit and just watch people. To me, that's better than going to any other park. You sit there and watch the people and see how they interact and how they enjoy the parks,
Yeah.
particularly Epcot.
What's your favorite park of the four?
I knew that was going to be your next question. Mine is the Mine is the studios. I love the studios. Maybe because it's movie making, but for a period of about 12 years, our department, the merchandise artists department, was at the studios. We were in the animation building up on the third and fourth floor. So
Mm-hmm.
we were there at the heyday when the studios was at its highest, and all the animators were there, and we were there, and it was a lot of fun. I got to meet some of the animators and make some good friendships with them. Um, because when it all comes down to it, at the end of the day, we're all artists and we all love Disney and we just want to do stuff for Disney. So those 12 years really put an imprint on me. At lunchtime, I would go out and ride one of the bikes around the back side of on the back part of the stage, the back part of the park, with with a guest on it. And I would drive around. There was a airplane that was back there that was Walt's plane when he used to come to fly over Florida to see where he wanted to build Disney World. And that plane was back there for many years. I think last I heard is that they refurbished it and they're going to put it in a museum somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
But it was just nice going back there and you could see the people. The people couldn't see you, and it just gave a whole new perspective of the parks. I used to love to watch when they had the backstage area, you had the Golden Girls house back there, and Empty Nest house, and Ernie's house, and I would ride my bike through there when the tram wasn't coming through because it was a backstage tour. So when they weren't there, I'd ride my bike through there real quickly so I could look at the houses. And of course, now that I think that's Galaxy's Edge now.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, oh man. So when studios opened, did you immediately go over there? Were you
No,
working over there? No.
no, no. It's when they built the animation department,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that was in '98 when they
Okay.
built it because that's when the company decided that they wanted to have two animation departments, one on the West Coast and one on the East Coast. And it was eventually the idea that there'd be an animated film each year. The East Coast would do one, the West Coast would do one, and it would overlap. But there were a lot of great films that were done from the studios in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
Stitch, Lilo and Stitch for one, Emperor's New Groove. I'm trying to think of what else.
Was
I think
Mulan? I
portions.
think Mulan too, right?
I think portions. Yes, Mulan was in there as well too. So they made some really great films from Florida, and then
Wow.
they closed it down. And when they closed it down, then they moved us. Our leadership decided to move us back over to our other old building where we went back to, and we've been there ever since. Well,
So
my colleagues, I'm not there anymore.
so what is your favorite attraction then at Hollywood Studios, past or present?
Mine was a great movie ride. I liked the great movie ride.
Yeah.
To me, again, it was that whole Hollywood thing. And when you would go through the great movie ride, you would see things that you say, oh yeah, Walt must have felt this way when he first went to Hollywood. It was that fresh start, seeing a new thing, films and production, and TV, and it was really cool. And I'm trying to think of what other one of the studios. Um, Tower of Terror. I like the Tower of Terror.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Steve and Tony want to know, how did you feel when they got rid of Great Movie Ride?
Kind of sad, actually. Although the attraction that there's now is great. I went on it just one time just recently, and it's really, really good. But I just had that was one of the very first attractions I went on when I first joined the company. A friend of mine, another artist, took me over to the studios, and I remember we were in the shop on Main Street. He showed me some of the merchandise because that was always the thing. We would go to the parks and look at the merchandise and stand there and listen to people talk about the merchandise, not even letting them know who you were or what you did. But that was a good way to get some kind of feedback as to what the guests wanted. But I remember we were standing there, and I hear the voice of the loudspeaker say, ladies and gentlemen, let us welcome Barbara Eden. Now, I don't know if you guys know who Barbara Eden is, but for me, she was a heartthrob. I was a young kid. She was Jeannie of I Dream of Jeannie.
Mm-hmm.
That was gonna be
So
my guess. Yeah.
yeah, she was putting her hands in the rock work or the cement for the great movie ride. So yeah, that was the other nice thing. I liked how they had all the hands out there, the handprints, the
Yeah.
footprints.
Yeah.
Old Hollywood.
Yeah, they remain today. They remain today.
Hmm.
Yeah, I pound the
Yep.
drum for that too. You know, Great Movie Ride was our favorite as well, and I love Mickey and Minnie's. It's kind of a must do for me whenever I go to Hollywood Studios. So I wish that they
Hmm.
would have just found another location for Mickey and Minnie's Runaway
Hmm.
Railway, and
Yeah, it's
and you know,
a great attraction.
it
And
is.
the
Took
the,
took
the
took Mickey a long
engineering.
time, right, to get his own attraction.
Yeah. Well, no, he had Phil Our Magic. He was in that.
Well,
That was
okay.
kind of
I
like
mean, he did it big then. He did it big. I guess something that,
yeah,
other than a show, but boy, yeah, Mickey did do it big, didn't he? And
right.
that's still the greatest. That's still the greatest park show. Whether
Oh
I've
yeah.
seen anything on YouTube or in person, I just feel like Fantasmic, nothing comes close.
Mm, mm.
Such a
Yeah,
big production.
Phantasm's just great. Absolutely. And then Phil Our Magic, he was in that one too, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to
Right.
think what other attraction.
I think that's
Oh
really it.
golly, I think that's it. Well,
Yeah.
Mickey Mouse Review, which what used to be where Phil Our Magic is now. That moved to Tokyo. And that
Oh.
was a great attraction too. Yeah, that was all animatronic figures. It was all done by Bill Justice, who was an animator and made the move to Imagineering, and he's the father of Chip and Dale. He's kind of like the guy that did it. Chip and Dale. He did all the Donald Duck shorts of the 1950s. Maybe that's why I liked him so much, because he was the Donald Duck man.
Did you ever go into the stores and you look at like a shirt or a piece of merch and you go, "Oh, Chuck did that one. I know I know
Yes.
Chuck's work. Chuck did that."
Hmm. Yes, that's a good statement, because when in our department there were at one point, I think there were about 10 or 15 of us character artists, because you have your complement of designers, production artists, etc. It's a whole group of people. But when the character artist would draw Mickey Mouse, you could lay all 10 to 15 drawings of Mickey Mouse, and any one of the character artists could go along and say, yeah, that's so and so's art, Mickey, that's so and so's Mickey, that's so and so's. It's just that we know each other so well, and we know what style each character artist has.
Mm.
It's kind of weird. It's true.
And you were primarily in the merchandising art department.
Yes, but occasionally we would get, or I would get, and I can only speak for myself. Um, I guess because you're with the company so long, you start to synergize with other departments. And so again, the cruise line is a good example. I got to work with Imagineering on the articulated Baloo that could sing and dance and move his mouth, and also the King Louie. And then there was another costume that I did or helped design for Animal Kingdom. So when you're with a company for a long period of time and you get to know other divisions through whatever projects that you work on, word gets around, and then people will say to you, "Hey, do you mind if I have you work on this? Or can you work on this?" And yeah, it goes like that.
Wow.
In fact, one of them,
Did you have
I'm going to show you. I want to show you one quick
All right.
thing.
I love it.
Love it. I love it too. Show and tell.
This was done for a T-shirt design, but they ended up putting it on a pizza box.
Oh.
Look at that.
So when you go and get a pizza over at any of the, that's the box it comes in.
How about that? And
I,
and you
I
did
didn't
that?
know it when. Yes, well, it was intended for
Isn't
a
that funny?
T-shirt,
Supposed to be a
and
T-shirt,
then
Yeah,
ends up as a
yeah,
pizza
but
box.
I think
that's
food and
funny.
beverage must have come over to our department, and they wanted to look through our library, and they found that and said, yeah, let's use this. So you'd be surprised at where the artwork ends up and where it wasn't intended to be. It's
Yeah.
I think it's
it,
smart
it's
what Disney
fun.
does. I think it's smart what they do sometimes. Hey, we're just going to make this art and then we'll decide where we want to use it and where it goes. Um,
Mm-hmm.
we've been in the parks before park open and things like that. We've done some extra work for Disney here and there. And I've asked that question before. Hey, we were actually um, one of the few people, we were the first public people to be let into Magic Kingdom before Magic Kingdom opened when it closed for COVID. So we
Wow.
got to kind of run around Main Street and all that just a few days
Wow.
before it would open. And yeah, we were the first people to see the cavalcades. No one had ever seen it before. We're like, okay, we're filming on Main Street like we're watching the parade, but there's only one piece coming down at a time. And I'm like, well, maybe that's from a shooting standpoint, and it'll look like a full parade wherever they put it out. And I asked them where it was going, and they said, oh, we don't know. We could use it in many different places. And a few months later, a friend contacted me and said, hey, I was staying over at Art Animation or whatever, and I had the TV on, and you can watch the must-dos and all that stuff, what's going on in the parks and what to do. And we appeared in that. So we ran on. I think we're still in it. I'm not sure if we're
Yeah.
still running in that, but for a few years we ran, every 20 minutes on that station. So you never know where that stuff is going to end up.
You you never know. Did they have you sign anything, any kind of release or anything like that?
Yes, yeah. You sign that
Hmm.
with the company. We belong to a company, so I get offers all the
Yeah.
time still, but Working as much as I do and the kids in school, things like that, it's really hard to. I'll accept almost any job if it's like a weekend job, but Hollywood doesn't work on the weekends. It's really weird.
No.
These jobs are all Monday through Friday all the time. We just got one for Epic Universe, but we can't do it because that was this week for shooting. So I'll walk around Disney sometimes and I'll see some cameras out and they're shooting or whatever. And I'll say, I got offered that, but I couldn't do it. So, but it's fun. It's fun. I have some stuff on Disney Plus too. What was that? The Right Stuff.
Very cool.
The Right Stuff series. Did a little stuff there. But so have you ever done anything or had any input or influence on any of the attractions?
I'm trying to think. Offhand, I don't think I no. No, I don't think that I have. Mainly the merchandise. We would sit down with. We would get the information from Imagineering when they would say, "Okay, we're opening up a new attraction like Tower of Terror." I remember when they were building that. I remember when they were building Animal Kingdom. I was looking out my office window and I could see them building the Tree of Life with all the structure underneath, which was amazing to watch. And you see
Wow.
that. And we were working on merchandise a good year and a half out. So you would get the information from certain sources at Imagineering. Of course, a lot of it was confidential. And we would sit there and come up with the ideas for if we're going to do pencils, uh, photo albums, et cetera, et cetera. We would work on all those things. And then, of course, to get them manufactured, you have to have a certain time frame. And it had to be there at the right time. So when that park was opening up, that merchandise had to be there. So we would work, a year and a half, 2 years out.
Wow. That's lots of preparation. What do you think
Certainly is.
about What do you think about progress in the parks? D23, they just announced all this major overhaul in Magic Kingdom, and us all being in the Disney community and just loving Disney, there is a lot of us that will be sad that the old attractions will be closing and new things will come in. What are your
Mhm.
thoughts on that?
Well, I like to quote Walt Disney, or at least paraphrase what Walt said about Disneyland. He said, one of the beautiful things about this park is that it's always changing. The trees are growing. Uh, we have different attractions coming in. It's constantly changing. Obviously, there are certain things I wish didn't change, but when you think about it in the long run, sometimes it's a good idea. I embrace change. I do, but I still like to hold on to the past, but I do embrace change. Um, I think that as time goes on, if you were to look at Disneyland the way it was in the 1955, it's nothing to what it looks like now. When you see the different technologies that have allowed progress, I think in a good way. Like for example, the when you look at the castle and you have all those images that are now on superimposed on the castle, couldn't have done that 10 years ago. Now here we have it, and it adds more to the story. So all of these things that change, yes, it's kind of sad, especially for us that remember them. But for the newer people that are coming in, they're seeing it with a fresh new eye, and it's new things in the technology and everything else. And everybody has their view of Disney. I think it's a good idea. I think, and sometimes I wish they didn't do it, but overall, I think it's a good idea.
Do you think what Disney did at D23 to announce these major attractions, and even over in Hollywood Studios, Monsters Inc. Land, you got
Hmm.
Villains and more some Lightning McQueen stuff going in, with all those new things coming in. Um, oh, I just lost my thought, Lawrence. I do that sometimes because I talk too much leading up to the question. Um, so Epic is opening up here, of course. So do you think that's Disney's answer to Epic Universe is these particular
Hmm.
announcements, and that's how we'll counter that? Or do you think there's a fifth park that could come along sooner than later?
Well, I'm definitely out of the loop when it comes to those things. I'm sure a lot of these ideas were around long before Epic was put in, but I also look at it this way. Disney or Universal, or even for that matter, SeaWorld, benefit whenever one or the other develops something new. It the guests are still going to come that go to Universal. They're going to go to Disney, and vice versa. So I think yeah, Epic Universe is just going to bring more people to Disney. Um, and again, it's a fantastic park. And what they're doing, I have a friend that's an engineer over there, and although he doesn't tell me too much because he said he'd have to kill me, um, I know that that park is going to be spectacular, and Disney's answer to it will be spectacular too. Is equally, if not more, spectacular. I think that's just the way the theme park industry works.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, I would
Did you
agree.
like that answer?
Yeah, great answer. Great answer. Perfect.
Man, I tell you, I know that I'm going to invite Brian back on the show. We may not even talk about art. We may just talk Disney history because I
Yes.
think we just tipped the surface there with the amount of history that Brian knows. I appreciate all of your insight, you showing us your work and just giving us that kind of an idea of what some people behind the scenes actually do. I really appreciate it. There's so many people in this company, in this
Thank you,
organization that
Lawrence.
take an idea and turn it into something. Corey's got I don't know how many uh, drawers full of T-shirts, and I know I
Yes,
have these.
I
I've
do.
got 50 button downs, most of them made by my fiance Catherine. But it takes the fabric has to be made for her to then make the shirt. The artist has to design that T-shirt, so that Corey can buy them because they're 2 for 25 or whatever they are.
A t-shirt wall is king.
But and mugs. I've got a whole collection of mugs and stuff back there, and if it wasn't for people like you, we wouldn't have a lot of those memories. So I thank you for everything that you did over 30-year history with Disney.
Well,
And
thank
what
you
you
very
first
much,
come up
Lawrence. I
with in
really
your
appreciate it.
mind, whatever you come up with in your mind then goes to paper or now computers, and then it goes out into the world. And I think it
Mm,
becomes larger than life for whoever, gets their hands on it.
mm.
You see it on the Disney Dream, and if they could see it in the front, they'd be like, wow, major life memories that they just made, or you get that T-shirt, right, Lawrence, or that cup
Yeah.
or that mug, whatever it is going to mean so much to somebody. So you ever
And
realize that
Corey,
you do more? What's that?
mm.
I was
Well,
gonna say, do you ever
I was going
realize
to
that
say,
you do more for people than you realize?
well, when I would talk with the younger artists in the department, I would often say to them, and you nailed it right on the head. That's exactly what I always tell them. I said, people aren't going to know you or me or any of the other artists in this department, but they will remember what they were doing when they bought this particular T-shirt or this snow globe or whatever. It will remind them of a time when Grandpa and Grandma took them to the park, or when they first met their loved one, or they proposed, or they went there for their honeymoon, or graduations, or whatever. It was. That's what's so important about this is helping to capture a moment for these people who will then take these items and go back to Massachusetts or wherever around the world. And every time they see that shirt or whatever that item is, it will bring some happiness to them. That's really what it's all about.
Yep.
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 Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Wow. Well, Brian, I really appreciate your time tonight.
Thank you,
And
Lawrence.
give us your Instagram so that folks can go over, take a look, and give you a follow.
Well, great, thank you. Yeah, it's one word, Brian Blackmore Art. That's it.
Brian
Brian, and that's
Blackmore Art.
Black. Yeah, BrianBlackmoreArt. Blackmore, Brian Blackmore Art.
Perfect.
And
Yeah.
I invite people to go and take a look at it because I try to pepper it with Disney history and give them a little bit of information because I could Literally, on every item that I put in there, I could do a whole page. Just that I'm a horrible typist, especially when I'm doing it on my phone.
Yeah. Yeah. I know what you mean. Well, thank you very much, folks. That
Thank you.
has been
Thank you,
Brian
Corey.
Blackmore.
Thank you, Lawrence.
You've got to come back on the show again. We
I
will
would love to.
Always
be
welcome.
chatting. Yeah, definitely.
Thank you.
Thank
you
you
very
so
much.
much. Appreciate it.
Have a great
We
evening, gentlemen.
appreciate you. All right, you too. Thanks for being on, and go Sox this year.
Yes. Take care.
You too. I had to sneak that in.
All right, let's cover news real quickly.
Let's do it.
Maybe. All right. Is there a Haunted Mansion refurb on the way? Well, there was a permit filed. So permit was filed for construction work on the Haunted Mansion. Nothing significant, but maybe we're getting the new bride that Disneyland got.
That would be great, because when they got it, the next time I saw Constance, I was like, oh man, please let us get the new Constance.
So we'll see. This was announced today. Huge news. Virtual queue is no more. So as of the 25th, both Guardians of the Galaxy and Tiana's Bayou Adventure will be standby. They'll also be, it does say that Guardians is going to be multi-pass and single pass as well, which is interesting for it to be both. And then Tiana's, we know, is already on multi-pass. So they had announced when they announced the plan for Tiana before it opened that it would be leaving virtual queue soon. My guess was December, figuring winter. So February 25th, I got it right because it's winter. Did not expect Guardians to be thrown in there. What about you?
No, I definitely didn't expect Guardians at all. I expected, I think you could see it coming. I think the writing was on the wall for Bayou Adventure, because there was starting to be times where we could see, right? We could just walk on.
Mm-hmm.
I think the last 2 out of 3 times we went over there, we just walked on. And we got on once without a reservation. And when you were there 2 weeks ago, it was open later in the afternoon. So
5 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah. I think that was expected, but I did not expect Guardians, because I spoke with either I spoke with a cast member or somebody told me that they spoke with a cast member at one point, and they said that it's not really built. The queue is not built for a normal type of attraction opening, because if the line overflows on the outside, there's no real good place to put people.
Yeah. Yeah.
And maybe they should have thought of that. Maybe it would have taken away from the aesthetics of the building. But if you're looking at the building and you're looking on the left side of the building as it's close to connections, maybe they should have built a roof right there of some kind. I mean, they could have styled it up to make it look like it belonged there, but there'll be no shade for anybody if they filter out there.
Yeah.
So that could be a little tough.
Wonders of Life is sitting right next to it. Just use that building.
Right?
Use it for something, would you? All right.
Yeah,
we're going to get something in there. Something's going to happen there. Universal Volcano Bay Nights.
This
I believe this is for the first time. They will be doing this. This is from 7 to 10 on April 12th and 26th, if I can read correctly, and then a couple dates in May. You can get in as early as 4. There'll be a DJ booth, some games, DreamWorks character meet and greets, complimentary treats. Man, this sounds really familiar.
Doesn't it?
And sure,
Disney should do something like this.
Tickets start at $99 per person for ages 3 and up, and annual pass holders will get 10% off on their tickets. I can tell you this, I've never been to Volcano Bay.
I can second that. I have never been to Volcano Bay, and it's really for just one reason. Like my family tapped out on water parks.
Water
Like
parks.
they're not into it. Just like that, they're not into it anymore. We used to go all the time. So if they were, we would have probably been, at least twice. So no. So this is something that Universal just doesn't do. So they're doing this. They should do some after hours kind of things at Universal and Islands as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They don't do that. I mean, they do a pass holder night, which is amazing. If anybody wants to know what that's like, we do have a vlog on that we did last year for a pass holder night. You get pass holder merch. The lines are really quick. It's a good time.
Mm-hmm.
Which that's what Disney has to do. I've been saying that again for a while. We need pass holder nights again out there.
They should just talk. Universal, tell Disney how you do pass holder nights, and Disney tell them how you do after hours parties.
We'll take it a step further. Universal can talk to Disney and how they do security too. How about that?
Let's see. Permits have been approved for Magic Kingdom. So obviously the biggest expansion in park history now has been approved and can start as early as March 1st. Now, that doesn't mean that Tom Sawyer Island is closing February 28th. There's been no announcement about it, so I don't think it's closing anytime soon. But the permits have been approved, which means that they can start work as soon as March 1st. And in fact, work is slated to start next month. But not on the Cars area, but on Villains Land, because again, there's nothing happening in that part of the park. So it's very easy for them to, or that part of the resort, because it's not part of the park yet. So it's very easy for them to start doing all the groundwork, the clearing and all that, setting footings and all that. You won't see any of that. Actually, I was going to say you might see it if you're on Big Thunder, but you're not on Big Thunder this year, because that's closed. So,
That's right.
Yeah, so you won't see any of that work. I mean, but they can do all that work with really, you wouldn't see any of the footings going in and all that, because that's all ground level or below.
Here's something that I don't think anybody's asked yet. Do you think that they will wait for everything to open before we're welcome to see these things? What if Villains Land is done 8 months before Cars Land? Are they going to wait on it, or is there going to be a way for us to just see everything on a particular day? Good food for thought.
I think that they are separate. I think that Cars Land is separate from Villains Land, and so when one is ready, it's just gonna we're gonna open and we're gonna get that part of the park. Now, I think everything in that area is going to be done right now. Galaxy's Edge was that way, and Toy Story Land, right? Everything was done there when it opened.
Well, I mean, yeah, Toy Story Land was open well before Galaxy's Edge. And, I don't know if you know this, but when Galaxy's Edge opened, Rise of the Resistance wasn't open yet.
Oh, okay. See, that's what I was wondering is was Falcon and was Smuggler's Run and Rise and the restaurants, everything was just ready to go. But no, Rise didn't. How long did it take?
I'm trying to remember. I don't know if anybody can remember in chat. I'm going to guess. I feel like Rise took a good 6 months or something before it came. I think it was a bit.
Oh, wow. Okay. Wow.
I think it was a little
Hey,
bit.
let's blast the chat for Alexander Bates with a $4.99 super chat that says, thoughts on doing a new park challenge day for future stream? How about a park hopping, 3 different parks? Maybe chat can vote on the 3 they like. Well, we've done 4 parks.
Yeah, we've done 4 parks. And thank you for that super chat. We appreciate that, Alexander.
Super chat.
We did what? We did 4 parks, plus we made sure that we rode or we took every piece of transportation that Disney offers as well. Plus ate a snack and rode at least one ride and took a picture in front of the icons.
2 rides and a picture in
2
front of the
rides.
icon. Yeah. Yeah, so that was full day, and we got it done in 12 hours. We would have more than that really now if we rope dropped. You'd have 15 hours, so we could certainly do what we did then. But that's definitely something that we have talked about. We thought we would make it an annual thing in July, but we didn't do that this past July. So we'll see. We'll keep you updated. We'll let you know. The annual pass holder magnet, typically we do not run out of these. And I don't want to say that they ran out, because what they're doing is the Ray magnet is not available currently. So if you go to pick up your Ray magnet from today through the 28th, you're going to be given the the mini magnet that you see on screen. I don't have it in my studio. It's on my refrigerator where it belongs. So we have that one already. They gave it out. They're giving it out currently, and they're going to mail you the Ray magnet. And there's always some question about whether you actually get Disney mail. So when you're in the store and you pick up your mini magnet, they actually verify the address, and they tell you that you will get one per person, because typically it's one per household when they mail them. But because this is a substitution, they're doing it like this. And for those like myself and Corey who went and got our Ray magnets, we can actually go back and get the mini one as well.
Yes, and we have that one already, but why not grab another if you have a chance?
Yeah.
You
so
know?
Pretty cool.
Just to double back, March 7th, 2019 was when Galaxy's Edge opened.
Mhm.
July 11th was when Rise opened, so 4 months.
That's a bit of time for that. I mean, that's a big part of that land.
It is. It's probably the biggest and best part. I mean,
Yeah.
to see the Millennium Falcon outside is mind-blowing. But attraction-wise, Rise is, even though it's amazing to ride in the cockpit of the Falcon,
Sure.
Rise is just amazing.
Yeah.
Just even more unbelievable.
Last piece of news here. Volcom at Disney Springs is closing. So the parent company filed for Chapter 11, and so they're closing over 100 locations, and this is one of them that is closing. So there are closing sales currently going on. So if you're in the area, stop in and see what you can get.
I've never even been in that store. I don't even know what they sell. Is it like outdoorsy clothes kind of thing?
Yeah, kind of. I saw some flip-flops. I took a peek at what they had. Some of it was flip-flops and t-shirts and stuff like that. But it does look, from the outside at least, like because I've never been in it, I don't think. Does look like a big store, so it'll be interesting to see what retail
goes there,
ends
right?
up going in there. Yeah. So
The Diz shop.
Right?
Yeah.
So, another great episode, being able to speak with a great artist. And he's one that I would think will be great to have on, just to talk about, the history that he knows of the company, which is amazing. And he knows it not even only because he works there, or not only because he worked there, but also because he just loves Disney history. So that'll be really cool to have him back on. We'll
I agree.
definitely have him on.
I agree. Make note of that. Crockett says, I go to Disney constantly, and I don't even remember that store.
See?
I know exactly where it is. I've never gone in.
Yeah.
Never.
Yeah.
I've also never been in Amorette's either, though. The
Oh,
cakes are so pricey. Like, I'll window shop in there, but I've never gone in there.
I don't. Outside of the Disney merch, like Trendy, I've been in. The other one, the art store, obviously World of Disney. Those other ones, I don't. I think I went into. Is it Unique Glow? Is that what
Yeah,
it's
if
called?
anybody wants like some pretty cool Disney shirts at a cheap price, they typically go for $24.90. I think it
Mhm.
is.
Mhm.
And they have some really cool. I was poking around in there Saturday night, and they probably have a good 12, 15 Disney shirts in there, Mickey and Donald and some other stuff, some
Yeah.
Star Wars stuff. So
Yeah.
always cool to get a different take on that over there.
Yeah. So, tomorrow night we are at Magic. Um, so
Yes.
I'll start up the pre-show, send you out to Corey, um, and then the post-show. I've got a couple attractions from Disneyland lined up. I have a fireworks show from Disneyland, and then, of course, when we're at Magic Kingdom, we always end with the Kiss Goodnight. So we will end with the Kiss Goodnight from Magic Kingdom. So should be fun tomorrow for sure. I will be bundled up here because we are getting winter weather. Could be anywhere between ice, sleet, and 2 to 3 inches of snow, or 7 to 8 if I look at the other weather app that that I looked at.
Wow.
I'm like, you're wrong. It's not going to be 7 to 8. I'll give you 2, 1 to 2 inches maybe. But yeah, so we're going to have some winter weather. So they've already closed school for tomorrow.
Oh, how about that?
Yeah. So very cool.
Yeah, it's been chilly again. So actually, I'll have to take a look at the weather and see what kind of attire I need tomorrow.
Yeah. And next week on the DIZPod, we will have Cyan from Once Upon a Nanny joining us to talk about her company and being a nanny in the parks and what they offer. And I think I have a couple more. So we're going to cover Flower and Garden, which is coming up really quick. So we're going to do a preview right before it starts. And then the following episode will be a recap. Excuse me. And then as we look further into March, we're going to have Aaron, who we all know from Magical Horizons. He's going to be on the show talking about the early days of streaming and getting started. And we'll have a little tech talk and should be a lot of fun. But we continue to lock down some great guests. One guest that was supposed to join us to talk about Disney history last year, but he had something come up. He's going to be joining us, and he's locked down, but we just have to pick one of 2 dates for him in April. So we're actually pretty well booked out until May.
Yes, and we'll have Ashley on again to talk about Disney foods, allergy-friendly foods, as well.
And we're going to do an episode on hidden Mickeys. That's going to be
Yes,
cool.
we are, with a very special guest as well.
Yeah, that's going to be pretty cool. So we got a lot of stuff lined up for you, and we are so close to the 100th episode.
Oh boy!
So close to the 100th episode.
Oh boy!
I got to start pulling clips in and stuff like that for that. That is in June. Right now, that's calendar says June 3rd will be that show. So we'll keep working on that. And then I have a guest lined up for the Disney College program in April. We actually have a show on April 22nd, which is Animal Kingdom's anniversary. So we're going to do a little history on Animal Kingdom that day. And then we have already lined up the days for our D23 prediction and our D23 recap shows. So we've got a lot of good stuff this season coming up.
fun and exciting. Let's do it.
Yes. Yep. All right. So that's going to be it for tonight. I appreciate everybody tuning in. Again, make sure you're here with us tomorrow on Living in Diz for Magic Kingdom for some fun. And then you are at Epcot on Saturday.
Yes, we are. The
I
wonderful
will-
Court on Main Street will be joining us
Oh,
for,
nice.
yep, and she'll be doing the World Showcase walkthrough with us as well. No shopping at the end of that one. We are going to beat feet because Jacob will be with us, and we want to make another mad dash all around Disney Springs. So we're going to end the stream right after the walkthrough and
Okay.
do our thing. Yeah.
All right. So I will not be doing that Saturday show because that's Finley's birthday party. So I will not be with all of you that night. I may pop into chat every now and then, but I'm not manning the controls. So Corey's got it out there. You'll be in Corey's hands. So you'll be all good. All good. So all right. I think that's gonna do it for me.
That's going to do it for me as well. Thank you all so much for watching and listening live. We do this live because we do it for you. And we also appreciate everyone that watches us later on, whatever you're doing on the iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple app, and wherever else you can find us. We appreciate everyone. And yeah, so for now, we're just a couple of bros talking Disney. Have a good night, everyone. We'll
Good
see you
night.
tomorrow.
DIZPod, where the magic's here to stay.